Igbo na-edozi obodo, ndị Igbo na-emepe obodo, ndị Igbo na-ahazi obodo, ndị Igbo na-eme ọfụma, ndị Igbo nọ n'ime afịa, ndị Igbo na diaspora, ndị Igbo na entertainment, ndị Igbo na gọọmenti. Anyị na-eme ife siri ike, anyị na-eme ife kalaka. Anywhere you enter, we dey there. I walk I never see beautiful people.
If I quarreled with your son and I'm no longer marrying again, what will happen to the land where I'm planting? She said, where I am going, they will give me land. So it dawned on me that whether in my father's house, whether in my husband's house, I want to contribute in developing the community, but the issue for me is that I do not have the right, absolute right to express my, assert that right to property as I would in the cultural context. So what have many women done? What many women have done is that they go to Lagos, they go to Abuja. If they want to build or buy property, they go to Lagos, they go to Abuja and build. Do you know why they go there? That is where they have assurance of legal protection. So that means that all the productivity and investment a woman would have made na Igbo, because Ujona Atuya, that property is not culturally, the culture will not protect her. So she takes that wealth elsewhere. So most of the time, and I see sometimes, what makes it go for? Because she can't keep it where she is not sure of. Let's leave land alone and look at politics. There are other cultural and religious norms surrounding marriage that impede Igwebuike's productivity, especially as it relates to women. So let's also assume that I, as Victoria, want to contest for Senate or House of Reps, right? Then I go to PDP office to buy a ticket. They say, which one is your constituency? I say, I'm from Ibezim-Ohaeri now. When you reach there, they'll tell you, oh, no. You are from Ogwa. You will represent your people at Ogwa. When I go to Ogwa, they say, you are married. Go to Mbise. You go to Mbise, they toss me again. Go to Ogwa. So we have had examples. Somebody like Stella Udua. She was married in Delta State, right? Where did she contest election? Bianca Ono. She's from Enugu. And when she went to Anambra, she started facing hurdle. You are from Enugu. I'm married to Anambra. I'm from Anambra. Go to Enugu. She's not the only one. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. She's from Delta. I think she was the only one that ever tried and successfully represented Abia State in the federal cabinet, representing Abia State. There's also another ambassador, I think Ambassador, let me remember her name, Wadibi Anyanwu. She had faced the same challenges. So the question for women is that marriage is seen to be a good thing, right? Marriage is a good thing. When a woman is of age, they expect her to marry. It's a beautiful thing for a woman to marry. But as we see, as you marry, it can become a barrier. Because when you are single and you want to represent your community, it's clear. There is no go here or go here, right? But once you are married, if you need land, if you need to represent any person, you start negotiating. I think Betty Akeredolu, I missed her. I also missed her. You know, she's married in Ondo. Last week, she wrote her story, what happened to her in Imo ABC. you know, her story was tearing, was tear-provoking. And the question is, Ndi Igbo is not a bad thing in Igbo culture to be married. So if it is not a bad thing for Igbo women to be married, then there should be no restriction. Marriage should not pose a barrier to a woman's ability to be productive politically, economically, and socially. That is one of the important issues we need to look at. The second one is what makes women, what is the flip side? The flip side is sometimes when a woman is in a marriage and is not working, but because she wants to preserve her right to land or to use the land in the family, she stays in the marriage. That's the flip side of it. I've talked about where she has to maybe look for a city that will give her, the security of tenure she needs. Recently, we heard about the musician, an Igbo woman too, Usenachi Nwachukwu. She found herself in a marriage that obviously endangered her life. If I leave, her ability to use the land was conditioned on marriage. Anytime she left the marriage, her ability to access a lot of resources will be withdrawn from her. So what it means is that when an Igbo woman finds herself in an environment that she feels endangered, she might be tempted not to leave. You know why? She does not want to lose some of the privileges that come with marriage, which is right to property. The question we should be asking ourselves, how many women need to die before we start thinking of removing all of these cultural barriers? Another thing I want us to look at is some other prevailing traditions in Igbo culture. So I'm struggling with my slides. So some other prevailing traditions. Some other prevailing traditions that are peculiar to our culture is, in some communities, the first son takes everything. And parents are aware first sons are doing this. Are they not aware? Parents are aware. In some situations, when a woman is married without male children, when her husband dies, the relatives come for her. Another thing that is also prevalent is please, I'm coming. Another thing that is also prevalent is in many cases, women are outrightly not asked to get anything at all. So a man has clearly 5 sons and 5 daughters, but he chooses unilaterally, without force, without any compulsion. He shares his properties when his daughters are alive and shares it only among his sons. So it's either the son takes all or only the sons take and they leave. So when that happens, is that in any way enabling Igwe Madunile in the family, in the community? Is it enabling all of them to be equally productive? That is another question that we need to ask ourselves. So what has been done is not like steps have not been taken in the past to address some of these things. Some families have faced these pains. So I would like to share some of the steps that people have taken. Many of you that read law know about this case of Mojeku and Mojeku. People also know the case of Ukeje and Ukeje. In one of those cases, what happened was the man married a woman that gave birth to a daughter, and I think the wife died, and he married another woman that gave birth to his son. And when the man died, the stepmother and the son, because she has a son, they got the letters of administration and took everything. And the daughter that they had before said, no, we are not going to do this. And I want to assume probably that the man and the first wife probably built all that wealth together, right? And you know, when a woman is making with her children, a woman is hope else. But that was what happened in the case, and the Supreme Court said no, that this culture is discriminatory. It's contrary to Section 42 of the Nigerian Constitution. You can look up Section 42. It prohibits discrimination on several grounds, especially on the basis of gender. The court also described the tradition as barbaric. The court said a lot of things. I can't see my slides properly. I wanted to read some of the things that the court said. And in returning the properties to the daughter, it said that the punishment should serve as a deterrent measure and ought to be meted against the perpetrators of culture and custom. That is, people who use culture to leave certain persons behind. Then another thing I would like us to look at is, we have heard from the Supreme Court in a long line of cases, and in all of those cases that voided the Igbo inheritance, that voided inheritance, discriminatory inheritance practices, they're all Igbo customs, all in the Supreme Court. So, and most of them I'm aware of. I think I have seen some also pronouncements on some things happening in Edo. But the question is, despite all of this judgment, when you say something is a Supreme Court judgment, that's the final authority. That's the highest appellate court in the country. It means that beyond the Supreme Court, there is no other superior judicial authority. Nothing has changed. So it is clear that legal reform will not bring us the change that we want. So what will bring the changes that we want? What can make women begin to contribute to the Igwe in the Igbo community, in building an Igbo? What other customs can we borrow from? When I moved to Lagos, I found something strange. You can live in a block of 4 flats in Lagos, and there are 4 different landlords in the 4 flats. Yeah. So what happens is that if a man has 4 children, a Yoruba man has 4 children, male and female, he shares the properties: flat 1, Tokme; flat 2, Abiodun; flat 3, Kunle; flat 4, Dapo. And he bequeaths and gives title to them in respect of, and all of them are landlords of the overall property. So what it means for a Yoruba woman is that she doesn't feel entrapped in any situation that is endangering to her life and her future. You know why she doesn't feel that entrapped? The culture protects her. The culture gives her legal security. She doesn't feel the need. Sometimes you notice that more Igbos can invest in Yoruba cities, right? More Igbos can go to Lagos and buy property. In many parts of, like places like Festac, Alaba, many parts of Lagos, Surulere, Igbos occupy those areas like more than 90%. Why do they feel so confident doing that? It's called security of tenure. Then imagine the level of development that Igbos have done in Surulere, in Lekki, in Abuja, Imagine we have that in Enugu. Imagine we have that in Owerri. Imagine we have that in Umuahia. What do you think Igbo land will look like? All the things we hear about, Kaiga Lagos Gachuego, you'll be hearing Kanja Onitsha Gachuego, Kanga Kananemi Gachuego, Kanga Umuahia Gachuego. The movement will come this way, and where there is movement, there are resources, and there's revenue, there's taxation, there is development, there is empowerment. So the question is, why are we not thinking about those things that are making our people find other places more productive to invest in? I think I would like to round up my conversation by saying it's not enough to wait for the parliament to give us the change. As we can see from the Supreme Court judgment, the judicial bodies are not enough to give us the changes that we want. Acts of parliament will not give us the changes that we want. What kind of things can give us the changes that we want? When Mr. Obi says to himself, I have 2 daughters. I know this is and and puts his leg, stands his ground. Mr. Obi Mr. Njoko that has 2 daughters say, Mr. Obi Mr. Njoko will have the courage. Mr. Njoko Mr. Okeke say, Mr. Obi na Mr. Njoko I will also do it. And that is how change is. It is individual. It requires every family, every community to say, change begins with me. Change begins with my family. We will go back home and preserve the rights of, let me not start with my wife, let me start with my own daughter. If you do it for your daughter, imagine all the men in this room. We come from different communities. We resolve that we'll go back and do the same thing for our daughters. Let's leave our wives. Let's even send and right? Let's start with the children that we have, and we commit meaningfully to do something for all of the children, to leave a legacy for them, to give them the kind of rights, to make sure that any opportunity we have given to any one person to be productive, to maximize his or her potential, we make sure that there is no war, no part of the Igwe mud that we have left behind. And that will be my closing line for all of us individually to go back and say, I will make change. That change begins with me. And if we do this, Igwe Mado's potential in Igbo land will witness maximum and significant changes. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you again, Ms. Victoria, for that wonderful presentation. So, kitaka Ńkàtá Gebidozi Ofuma. Ńkàtá Ụ will have all sorts of presentation. It's not a one-sided event. We also have our moderated session where we have a moderator, and then we also get questions from the audience. So at this point, I will invite our moderator, Ms. Ebere Okoye, to please come up stage. Ebere Okoye is the CEO and founder of InSpark. Thank you so much.
Things that have really put women or put a particular group down in the Igbo community that is not reflecting that productive potential that was supposed to have happened. Yeah, I think from time immemorial, the Igbo culture has not asked women. I don't think Igbo culture ever asked women stay at home and be cooking. People that stayed at home to cook, maybe for some reason we are saying that there were those that also wanted to trade, also traded. The only snag was that the enabling environment, the tools of capital. You know, capital is not just money. Land is also a form of capital, right? So the capital that men and women needed to expand their trade, they were not equal. And it's not peculiar to Igbo culture. It is a tradition, it is a practice that cuts across societies. And when I say societies, in Asia it happens, in Latin America it happens, in many parts of Africa. It's not just an Igbo thing. So why I singled out the Yorubas is that among the different societies across continents, some people have deviated. Some have said, we don't want this, we don't want to do this. There are communities in Kenya that are 100% matrilineal. So we are borrowing a leaf because it's courageous for people to say, for everybody to be doing the same thing. And you look at that practice and you don't see a benefit in it. Instead, you notice that it's holding you back. And when it's holding you back, you stand away from it. You do away with it, right? And that is what has not happened in Igbo culture, like some societies have done. And that is part of what we're saying, that if you want Igwe, if you want to have strength in numbers, for the numbers, assuming the numbers we have today, developing our Igbo, we have 20. It is possible to increase the number to 50. And for you to increase the number to 50, you need to remove all of those barriers that the remaining 30 people need to cross over so that we can have 50 people developing Igbo land. And that is what Igwebuike signifies. Please, if you know about my colleague, you know. How many of you know Nnamdi Azikiwe? How many of you know Tafawa Balewa? So please stand up if you know. If you know Tafawa Balewa, please stand up. If you know Nnamdi Azikiwe, stand up. If you know Awolowo, stand up. Let's do a small quiz. Which one do you know? You know all of them. Let's start with Herbert Macaulay. What is the name of the first son of Herbert Macaulay? What is the name of the first son of Nnamdi Azikiwe? What is the son? What is the name of the second son of Awolowo? Nobody knows. Then why are you holding on to, I want to have a son? Does anybody know their son? The Queen of England, who knows her? Who knows her son? Everybody knows. So why are you, so I think what people should leave behind, people should aspire to leave behind is legacy. It is legacy that makes a community grow, not how many men in your lineage that make communities grow. So it also means, as we are talking about succession planning, you know, when you are raising your children, you know your children, right? You have known your children. You know that it is out of my 3 children, the lady is the smartest of them, and the lady has the ability to run my business efficiently in my absence. What do you do? What do you do? What does culture say? What will happen to the business? When it dies, what did you leave behind? So what are you preserving? No, that is the question. We're talking about unlocking our productivity, right? For you to unlock your productivity, you have to put your productivity on your best 11, right? When we are going for a match, World Cup match, out of 200 million Nigerians, you just need 11 people to represent the country. Is that not what happened? And in that selection, It is the only selection where Nigerians don't care if you're Yoruba, Hausa, Ibibio. What do they want? Who will put the ball inside the? That's all. That is how we should run our communities. Who do we have? It does not matter if that person is male or female. What matters is for us to be able to go to the goalpost of productivity and put the balls into the net, right? And get our mileage. And I think that's the only thing that, we have held on for. How many generations now have you held on to our lineages? As we are holding on to our lineage, who is your forefather? Who is it? You have no idea. If they bring this picture and put it on the wall, do you feel any emotional connection to him? Do you sometimes look at him, oh, darling, loving grandfather? He looks so handsome. Do you do that? As far as you are concerned, it's a painting on the wall. Then why are we holding on to things that in actual fact do not bring a lot of benefit to us and is not helping us unlock our collective productivity and potential? So that's how I answer your question about people desiring.
Why we continue to debate this? And then you find a particular school of thought that continues to say women are the ones who pass down our culture, because typically they are the ones who are always around the children and so for this kind of mindset to continue to go on and on and on, at least women have to be in on it, and not for them to believe this, but down to their children who continue to move on to children. So just like that. So do you think, like, what our participation in trying to do or to move ourselves forward, in trying to unlock our productivity, what role do you think men and women alike play in trying to unlock our productivity?
Yeah, so the roles that can be played are many, both men and women. Women, because we have witnessed this over and over, we've seen it happen, so we also replicate it. I believe that my mother-in-law maybe had experienced the same thing, so she feels it's normal to let her daughter-in-law experience the same thing, right? Until I decide that I will be the one to break the chain, that my daughter-in-law will not be part of this. So that change will not begin with me. And once I do it, there's one thing about cultural changes. Do you know there was a time, if you married, and remember in my village, there was a time it was a taboo to do your traditional wedding outside of the village. Do you know that people do their traditional wedding in Lagos? Do you know if people do it? Do you know there was a time in my village, if you did that in the eyes of the village people, you are still single. But those things have changed. Children now wed in the United States. Traditional marriage, the two families will agree and conduct a traditional ceremony. Because at the end of the day, what a couple need is the blessings of both parents. And both parents have given their blessing. Do you understand? So that is how changes happen. So it requires women to say, I want to break the chain of abuse. I want to break the chain of exclusion. I know I have been excluded. I don't need to pass it on to the next person. The same thing with the men. The men, there are thankfully, there are now lots of legal instruments that can help men to make decisions that are binding. They can make a will. A will is always binding, right? They can decide to make wills. They can decide to include their wife or their children's names in the properties that they buy, instead of leaving it to custom to decide what happens. when they grow. So these are opportunities, these are instruments that are available for men to make decisions that will also break the chain of exclusion while they are alive, effect that change, so that when they are not even here, that change that they have made will continue to endure.
Thank you very much for questions. And now should we go around to the person that has a question, you can raise your hand or someone will come to you the microphone and you ask your question. So we're going to keep your question in 3 minutes, whatever is on the training now, just to give you so we'll talk about the time and everyone will be ready. So yeah, question, we'll start from here.
I would like to correct, or rather, I want to add to what you have just said, because I'm Enugu, and it appears that Enugu Kahaseme did not tally completely with the impressions you're making, like even Enugu, because I know that you have a lot of influence. So I want to use this medium to tell you that most of those women that are making investments in Lagos, bring them to Enugu. In Enugu here, a woman has the full right to own properties. She has a right to build houses and own it all by herself. Then, if it comes in terms of inheritance, where the man inherits property from the father, this is inheritance to him. This is something that is given to him. But if a woman wants to have her own and that she wants to acquire by herself, she has every right in Enugu State to do that. And if the woman is not married in Enugu and her father is late, in the course of sharing whatever he has, the woman is always accommodated, to equally have property. Even if you want to build in a property that is given to her by the family, she can still develop it in Enugu. So in Enugu, we accommodate women. Women own properties. Women have the full right. Thank you.
Alright, so please would you tell us your name?
Okay, my name is Engineer Ńkàtá Ụ, Enugu State Network of Civil Society Organization. That's
Alright. Also, so I need to also clarify if you can give us, names of a few communities in Enugu that does that, because while you were speaking, there was like some.
Yes. Like for instance, if you come to Emene, Enugu, Nike, I get the point. Yes, I'll give you a reference. I have give you reference. If you come to Igwebuike's family, right? Most women that are not married in that family have properties given to them. I'm married from Anambra State. My mother-in-law is from Igbo, right? Some people that are in a home that are not married, some of the sisters equally have properties given to them by the family, right? But in Enugu, I'm very sure.
All right, thank you.
In my own community, I'm from Igbo. If you come to a home village and you want to own a property as a woman, you have the full right to acquire this property and build whatever you want. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Afambo, Mrs. Chinyere Arinze, the Executive Director of Young Leaders Club. It's an NGO that is into value project. I want to really appreciate, this is the first time I'm coming here, and I want to appreciate the speaker that spoke to us. But I want to add something to what she has said. And that thing is this, that we have values. Igbo have values, African have values. One in a more de duo no bani eziokwu e. And according to what you have, what the father has. When they according to what their father has. And they know the na di gị si nwee problem ọ bụrụ na ịmụta nwoke nwa gị too enyi ya n'ụlọ ụlọ. I want to give you instances. My own father, the mother and the husband had issues. My grandmother had a lot of lands in Port Harcourt. Mana mgbe diọkpali ya tonite o jee ebe anyị enyi ụlọ ọlụọ tonite enyi ya n'obi ọlụọ. I want to also go to my husband's family. My grandmother-in-law na di enwekwuru issue. Azụrụ ha n'ọba ikwu nne ha. By the time they came up, ejekwa. As a woman, I bought it with my money. Mana okwefula anobi ya, ofu mbosi nwaanyị asịkwa na eji bi anobi ya na ya pịagbu ya. Asụtara ya n'oyibo. Now, when you come to women in politics and the involvement of women in so many things, that is why our children are going astray. Because some nwaanyị chọrọ ka ha na ụmụ nwoke na-eme competition. It is not done. Omenala na nwaanyị nwere her place. Nwaanyị nwere her place. I had my place. I had my contribution to my society. I'm a teacher by profession. The whole of last week I was in Lagos doing my own impact in schools. And I will still do my own here again. It doesn't stop me from being a mother. But when you leave what you should do as a mother and you're trying to compete, and you will now leave your children, they will turn into armed robbers and start disturbing the society. When we are going through what we are going through today is because women are no more there on ground for their children. It is a partnership thing. A man and woman should train their children. But women, when I mentor women, I tell them, the day ozugbo na-abata achinye m key ụlọ. Yes, I'm rounding off. Mụnwa ka achinye key ụlọ. What does it mean? Ama m nwere neba chinye ya key n'olutago. How many of us have heard that song before? You are giving that key to make that home and take care of that children and bring in that value and establish it. So this idea, I want men, our men that are growing here. There are so many things. Why our society is going the way it is going is because we have lost our values. Let us do all we can to bring back our values. Thank you very much.
The beauty of this evening and every time I be here is this opportunity for us to talk about issues unfiltered, the way we see it. And I just want to, thank all of you for the candor and the honesty in talking about what is obviously an important factor, Nandu Igbo. Without necessarily trying to respond to what everybody has said, I want to just put down my two pence on the conversation. When you come into a family and you begin to give children in that family the impression that because they are either a girl or a boy, they have a different kind of entitlement in life. That is psychological damage. Ịbata n'ụlọ, amụọ ụmụazị na-abụ ejima nwoke na ejima nwaanyị. Ha na-aba na-eto gaa school na-eme ihe nke nwaanyị na-agba mbọ nke nwoke a na-agba mbọ. Ekebe oke asị a na ịbụ nwaanyị ma nkete na nwoke ga-ekete. It is not equitable, it is not justice, and I don't see any value in it. If anything, you are actually making that little girl feel subhuman. That is one. Number two, onwe nwelu exclusive rights in a umuazi. Women by nature nwelu a nurturing attributes, which I don't know how they do it. God has given them that gift. But that doesn't excuse us, men. Now, what has no by constitution, when that child was produced, or two people made the thing. Why is then the training of that child the exclusive preserve of the woman? I don't think so. I think both of them should do it. I'm not also trying to say that Nadiana society, understandable. But the sharing of that, that's the point. Because why don't I have the same access to property as yourself? Why is then my own duty diminished? Because number one, having this conversation, what are we telling families that don't have boys?
Absolutely. That's what I wanted to say.
As we're having this conversation, what are we telling families that want boys? So the woman is inadequate? Or the family is inadequate? Or what? So my point is, I think, not the very important, as a people, to ask ourselves the question, if we subjugate women, whose interest do we serve? That's not what I'm saying.
That's not what we're saying.
That's not what I'm saying.
No.
I'm saying that we should give them equal opportunity to thrive. I can use myself as an example, and it's a much more personal story. I have two girls. I have no interest in having a boy. No interest whatsoever. I'm not going to have another baby because I want to have a boy. Because I think those two ladies, those two young princesses, are as adequate. And interestingly, if I'm asked to make a choice again, I want those two. And when we realize that the value of a child is not whether he or she pees standing up or pees sitting down, but more or less in the content of what she has made of herself. When we realize that our legacy is built on our character, not on our children, when we realize that the collective effort of society on equal pedestal makes it almost impossible to stop anybody, then we can understand that some of these practices are functions of ignorance. Our forefathers did not know better. The opportunities were different. In their own time, and let me just take a little bit of time to say something. In their own time, there were reasons these duties were shared differently. Almost every community is at war all year round. In the olden days, that also provided this practice. Now, why in by nature, men are stronger than women. That's reality. It was part of the reason. It was not because women are not good enough to go and take decisions. So in the olden days, in some, at least in my own community, Casey can in the olden days, no, because men are stronger. They do better than the women. So these things were done within a particular cultural setting. The context was uniquely different. We simply cannot take the solutions of a stone age and bring it to the 21st century. It's not possible. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. So the point, my name is Benita Arinze. So the point I'm trying to make is, Maova they mentioned about that Igbo people have values, and he emphasized that. He also now said that these values that we had, the values that we apply in this age that we are reflecting the things that happened in the past. And what I just wanted to say is that the basis of everything that is happening now is that what we need is a value reorientation, because we have shifted. We are at another phase in life where things are different. The things that happened then, back then, what happened was, okay, they said men were stronger and men needed to go and tear bulls, and you were like, okay, yeah, this man is strong enough to go and tear down this bull, so he should go and tear down this bull while I stay in and clean and wash and cater and everything. But in this time that we don't need a man to go and tear the bull. Oh, well, not literally, but we have machines now that can tear down bulls. So the fact that we have machines that can tear down bulls, there needs to be a value orientation, because as much as this was the basis of the human creation and the basis of everything that formed culture, because we know culture, they say, according to what they say culture is the way of life of the people. This was the way things came about. So the basic thing we need now is a value orientation, because we know Igbos have cultures. Yes, we know that these things were like this when Igbos were made. But as much as we are evolving, because evolution has occurred, so as much as we are evolving, Igbos are realizing that the talk of the town now is everybody saying we should find better political models. Why can't we stick with what we have before? So yes, Igbos have values, but what we should do is a value orientation. And I know that I'm not really into the Igbo culture, because well, they didn't tell me everything. Oh, kids as a kind of one or two. So, as we should have talks where we identify these cultures that are holding us down and try to see ways of reformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Women can buy land. That is with their money. But when we are talking about family property, the man is not required to buy it. He inherits it. So you are actually emphasizing that discrimination, that why one person can inherit for free. That is, inheritance means by virtue of just being born. You have land. But to be a woman, you have to go and buy. That is, you have to go and make money, buy it for you to have that security of tenure. That is what we are discussing. That is that discrimination that we think is not helping two children from the same father and the same mother to unlock their productive potential. The second question is about women. I've always asked myself, do children become better because mama has no law? Do you think so? Well, my mother died very early. My mother died early. I started by telling you the story of my father and how he my elder sister is a doctor. I am a lawyer. My younger brother is an engineer. He's also a politician in Imo State. All of us turned out well. My mother did not train us. She died. So did my father say, he didn't do that. He stepped in and trained his children. I saw my father cook. I saw my father go to the market, zota gare, zota beans, I saw my father cut vegetables. I saw my father do those things. I saw my father cook food and put on the table and we eat. So, we hear is a very bad news. There are lots of women that die during childbirth. Is that not so? Will their children become useless because their mother died? That's not necessarily the case. So it emphasizes the point that training the children is a collective responsibility. You know why we say this thing about making your children equal? Is actually to protect the man. See, when a man has a male child, it is only the male that can determine the sex of a child. What happens, as doctors have explained it to me, is the woman always has the X chromosome. The man has to bring the Y and put into her so that they can have an XY, which leads to a baby boy. Right? So if the man constantly gives her, she already has X. If the man constantly gives her X chromosome, she will keep giving birth to female children. So it is the man, when a woman is constantly having female children, it is her husband that she should blame. It is her husband that should bring the Y chromosome that will form. So if a man's body is filled with X chromosome, even if he has 10 wives, he will still give birth to female children. So how does the society protect that man? Let's say he has had 7 wives and 7 of them had 17 girls. What happens to the man? Should we banish him? Does he cease to be a man because he has 17 daughters? He doesn't cease to be a man. He's still a man. So how does the man protect his name and his legacy? That's the question we're having. See, when we say that it is our value for women and men to be unequal, we are saying that men who don't have male children are not man enough, and that is not correct. That's not correct. Whether a man has a male child or a female child, the man is already a man and should be respected and given his maximum entitlement as a man. It is not the sex of his child that determines his manhood. He's a man by virtue of being a man. Right? So that equality helps to protect. I actually think it protects the man more than the woman. There's also the comment that was made that once a man, I think when you were sharing your story, as long as you have a male child, it's the same thing I was already saying, the same thing that my mother-in-law told me, that you have a male child. So it means that my son, that is a teenager, has higher rights in the family than me, his mother. How should I feel about it? Good? How do you tell me that my stay in that family, the security of that marriage, is dependent on a teenage boy? How do I feel about it? Should I feel good about it? The security of my marriage that security should be conditioned on the love I share with my husband, not a small boy in secondary school. Okay, we pray our children live long. If anything happens to him, what happens? What happens to the effort the struggle we have made together from our youth? So we say if anything happens to that son, I'm done. Assuming something happened to him when I'm 60, I can't have another son. What's my fate? No, tell me, what's my fate? Some women, the child baby was, anything can happen because the life of these children are not in our hands. So at 60, at 65, I lose my son. You are telling me I am now nothing in your family. A family where I have helped you people to dig foundation, family where I have helped you pay school fees of children, a family where I have helped you erect structures, family where I have helped you build mansions. Suddenly, because my son is no more, I am nobody in that family. It's a painful reality for every woman. I don't think it is the value of Igbo people to do that to any member of the family. So what can we do differently? How can we make our men that have only female children not feel agitated in old age, start having BP? How do we protect them? How do we make them realize that having a second wife is not the solution? So these are the issues, what we need to do, because while we're having this conversation is, we're not saying that change is going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. But it's for us to go back inwardly and reflect and also ask ourselves, if I did things the other way around, what benefit? Maybe when we weigh the benefit on both sides, we can make a decision. So maybe let's try the other side. Let's try giving our children all their equal due and equal share. And then weigh the benefit and see whether we bring more value. And if you bring more value to your family, then you choose which side that is working for you.
Thank you very much. We'll go to the guy in black, then see that then the gentleman in front. So,
you said what?
I said no more questions about what we're doing.
Okay.
Yes, so no more questions.
Okay, yes. I came all the way from Aba, so if I haven't talked today, it would be a gross injustice. Okay, I think when we say inheritance, when we talk about rights in family as they have to do with the Igbo, we have to be mindful of the way we talk about, because Igbo culture, in fact, these things are culture specific. They are culture specific. There are places in Igbo land where women can actually inherit property. There are places in Igbo land where they cannot. But when we want to weigh it on the balance, or when we know that the men actually had age, it's just as clear as day. But the thing is that, like the speaker said, we can actually begin this change. The question should be, is it balanced the way we are going about these things? In most cases. Now, I think even in the Bible, I always remember the case of, I think in the book of Exodus, I don't normally go to church these days. I don't know whether church left me or I left church. Yes, I think in the book of Exodus, there was a particular case where a man known as Zelophehad died. He had 5 daughters and no son. And we know the Jewish custom. So the daughters approached Moses and I think Eliezer, and then the assembly said, what will happen to us? The Bible said Moses went to inquire, and God told Moses that the children of Zelophehad will not only inherit their father's estate, but that people who will marry them must come from their tribe. It happened in the Bible. So I don't know why, when we talk about these things, I think the problem we have is that we are not even making impact. We are not even making any move to begin the change that is very, very important. And the most thing is that sometimes men marry, they have daughters, and when they die, Umunna will come like vultures on carrion. That's the one that I find so painful. So I think in Igbo land, if we want to talk about inheritance, rights, and everything, we have to be culture specific. If you are saying, for example, in Abreba community, they have what to call matrilineal system, where women are respected because, according to that history, a particular woman who had sons used her own sons. The only son they had. And that's why that community, that area, they are matrilineal. So if you have a son, or you marry from outside, they still see you as part of their own, even in terms of inheritance. So I think going to water or other places, it may differ. So these things are culture specific. Thank you so much.
I'm Okalo Cesar Ama. I'm a poet. I didn't see us making this agenda talk because while we were talking about agenda, I checked my phone to see the flyer again. Said Igwebuike, unlocking our productive potential. But be that as it may, Pam say onwebe wuro golo eba ola potara ekuwe. But I would like to touch on that topic, especially unlocking our productive potential. We've really spoken well. I want to talk about on the part of pitching, then still bring it to gender because we've already brought the whole issue to gender. Then in terms of pitching business ideas, because we are talking about unlocking our potential, unlocking our productive potential. Between a man and a woman, I am not against the ownership of land between these two genders. Kenye ala ko were me ho chori ji ya eme woke nwekwa na ike inwe ala kenye gba ya ala ko were me ho ji ya eme kama onwe ihe society na ajo from where I come from Owa in Abia State. My society will always ask you, what do you want to use this land for? Especially if you are not buying it with money, you want us to give it to you. They will be like, what do you want to use this land for? There you now pitch. We have business, you guys know about pitching in business. Then you will pitch. When Okonkwo in chapter 3, things fall apart. When Okonkwo went to Wakibia to ask him for some seed yams, he said that I have cleared all the farm, but I have no yam to sow. I know I can walk. I started fending for myself at an age when some men were still sucking their mother's breast. Makibia was like, yes, I know too well that you can do this, and I've seen it in you. I will give you some seed yams. So you have to pitch. You have to be like, this is what I want to use it for. My father used to tell me about a famous prostitute in our community. She was really famous to the extent that when she came back home with a whole lot of money, she went to the elders and told them that she needed a land. And they asked her, what do you want to use it for? So she invested in maybe this poultry farm. And it was given to her, and she built the poultry farm and also built a house there. So it's not about gender, it's about how can you be productive? How can you pitch your business idea? What do you want to use it for? If you have the will, if you have the power, if you have the business idea, thank you.
My name is Afamobo Mike Nendo. It's in Lagos, Wadabrija. I don't have the resourceful local, not from Lagos, okay. Kangali Woge. Because my sister Nebu ordinarily scores on Kankuzio Kozo. My defense talk on Woku now. Even Sidia Telaka. And I'm with the Saturn. You get it, Lagos, you can Makandala. Faduna, Bridge, you just go outside now, Makalmacher. But it's not common within the Igbo. And that is the value we share, that we so much have for our families. Okay? And sometimes, and they go custom, tradition, and all these things. Which ending go when whatever they do for the I don't necessarily like to get discriminate here. I have 3 girls first. Because I want to start from the solution in Nigeria, that we should start from now to see what do we do. Okay, I will start from myself. I've been family wine now. Okay, now, but I don't know the first before Mama I go. If you are going to put me if you need like you really said, now they said for why you do know. That's our tradition. And whatever the father intends to do, even another said you can bring a girl to migrate to your business. It's still part of our culture, but not in some certain area. Every time I told my wife go to Igwebuike, that thing entered her head. She couldn't stay with her husband. Okay? So for me now, I went 3 girls just to borrow from the advice in there. What do I give them? Because my prayers are never guaranteed. And no more idea. All the things I knew. Only I don't know inherit or get inherited the husband. No whoever will inherit even in the dear. So I now said, let me start early. I've been Lagos. All my 3 girls get na Karifa school in Ndoka. I went to Ikoyi. Handmade, holy child. Okay? So before I start having boys, I paid through hell for them to pass through that school. And I made sure any course of enjoyment, whatever it costs me to get them. My first daughter is now a pharmacist. My second daughter now in America. She's a registered nurse. And I paid through her to make sure that whatever I'm going to give them, I give them now. Okay? And my prayer is that they should be able to be calm and humble to make a family. Okay? Now, this issue of inheritance and I know if I have properties, I can will some of them. But I can never will a family because it's an insult to them. My prayer is that they will go and inherit with their husband what they have in their husband's home. If I start now to start giving them, your people are very correct when you keep to come and start building. Because you are not doing the right thing. Whatever you want to do, go to your family with your husband, it's enough. So why in the church on code that now? I've come all the way from Lagos to be part of this program. And
Fortunately too, maybe in future, because whatever we do here, one are the more elitist. I am coming from the trading sector. Okay? So maybe this is my third time of coming anywhere. But today I came early so that I'll be able to speak. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much and for the opportunity. Well, I want to start by saying thank you to Victoria, like everybody has done, for so kindly bringing this conversation to the fore, to the table, for everybody else to have a bite. A lot has been said, and I'm not going to make a presentation or take on what everybody has said, but I just want to make a few points. The first one is that culture is simply a way in which society lives and regulates itself. Change and development are constant. They are constant features of human life. And in the old days, women's chances were largely limited due to nature. Today, development means that a woman is able to do more because her menstruation or pregnancy will not inhibit her as much as before. We know that in the old days, when women menstruated, they went away for a couple of days, sat among stones or palm fruits or whatever, because there was no other way. Now we know that they don't have to. In the same way, a woman is no longer limited that much by pregnancy because there's so much you can do and so much you can contribute. And I just want to say again that there have been, like Victoria mentioned, several judicial decisions in Nigeria, starting from Mojuku and Mojuku, that tend to speak in favor of women and inheritance and equal treatment of men and women. And I say that because judicial wisdom cannot be for nothing. The people who made those decisions are wise enough and fair enough and have looked at the culture, and this is the way for the future. Let me also say that we want to look at Igbos in diaspora. The speaker did point out that today, people do Ibanku in Lagos and Abuja and London and Maryland and everywhere else in the world. So this is what happens today. And it will continue, this will continue, and even gain more traction. What I'm trying to say is that Igbos in diaspora hold traditional events where they are domiciled, just like Jews in diaspora do, just like Indians in diaspora do, just like so many other communities. Our people who have moved to the diaspora and so on and have had their children there are really not coming back. That is the truth, whether we like it or not. This is the homeland, and this homeland is constantly shrinking. We don't even have land. It is constantly shrinking. So that all these traditions of whether you are going to give a woman inheritance or you're not going to give her inheritance, ultimately is going to be overtaken. But what I'm trying to say is that there's nothing wrong with a woman inheriting just like a man. And then somebody pointed out here that some woman in the community was given a piece of land because she wanted to make some development. That is a good thing. And I want to point out finally that in Igbo tradition, proper Igbo tradition, women did not change their surname. Oh, Makandira ko my grandmother never answered my grandfather's name. She was Wira Owako. Everybody knew where she came from. It is us, Anyuma, Ndi Folozo, Jakuko, Nuadiba, we are the people who can answer Mrs. So and so. Our grandmothers never answered their husband's name. They answered the name of their father. Oh, finally, what I'm trying to say, let us try not to be selfish. I have a son and I have daughters. Let our young men not think properly what they want for their own daughters.
Let us not try to be selfish. Then we talk about Igbo culture. And for those who say that there was Nigerian Biafran War, and we ran from place to place. I was a child, but I was old enough. They came here and took over and defeated us. Anybody. What I'm trying to say, let us look to the future and change for the better. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Florence Nenegu. So, I don't really know how to start reacting to this whole story, but I would love us to stop seeing things sentimentally sometimes and then stop bringing culture into what should naturally be thought about with equal thinking, because culture is us. We make culture. It's something some people, developed to be a formula to guide them, and it should change as times are changing, because what's probably applied in the days of our mothers can't necessarily be applied to me right now, because it's not going to work. So you have a child, a son and a daughter, and then naturally you know your daughter is excelling and your son is just there for the take, and you still want to give him things that you have worked so hard for, the empire you've struggled so hard for to build, because culturally you should give it to him. I'm yet to understand how that works. We are just two girls by my parents. It's a long story, but by my parents, we are just two girls. And 2017, my dad became sick. And we fought. My sister is a teacher, and me, myself, that just finished university by 2017. And I was shuttling in between an internship job and sleeping over in the hospital with my dad all through 2017 to 2018, May, when he passed on. And between May and July, when we did the burial, my uncles left everything to us. They never came to the hospital for one day to see him. We paid way through our nose because he was suffering from cancer. And because we wanted to give him the best, we stayed in a private hospital. And by the time we were having the burial, we needed an uncle, a man, to go with us to the Igwe Council. We're from Onitsha. So, and I know the heart of Onitsha, JD. We needed a man to go with us to meet the Igwe Council, to take a date, to do that, to do this. But nobody was going with my sister. I had to stay with her kids here in Enugu, so she was going alone. And then she would call me and tell me, Oni, iye jekuya makonge boada. Obulu muima na ya na matu mmadụ akube mbia niru ife ọzọ emere ekpuru nkata niru gwanya bụ eze okwu mmamfuro. And that's how my dad would always tell me, ife me otu osi onyi jekulu nwanne ya nwanyị na agụ ife ọzọ emere isi ada, one thing must happen. So you know what the kind of children you have, but because culturally it should be the man who can even hold a home.
You see why you have that issue, because you came back, if before the man died that there's no money, maybe they would have given you more. I think the problem had been solved before you are now requesting for the land. And I discovered from my own observation that in most cases it's women that take care of their father's house. Because I come from a place where a woman was given a house. He built a house in the Obi, because she has money. You know, I think women are breadwinners these days more than the men. And then there's no way, if you have money or you have made it, they will not give you something or recognition, but it all depends on approach. But one thing I'm saying that I think we are overemphasizing this issue and it's creating unnecessary problem. I think we should move forward. Whether you are a man or a woman, the best thing is to give them education, because nature has a way of doing its own thing. Because I discovered that in most cases, women are more breadwinners. And women take care of their home more than every other thing. But what I'm saying that we should lay less emphasis on some of this because it creates inferiority complex as if there's an issue. As far as I'm concerned, there's not an issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To everyone that wanted to speak, you don't have a round up. So we need to, round up, final words.
Okay. So in terms of final words, Abiriba is a very popular community that is matrilineal in Igbo land. And Abiriba is one of the most prosperous sets of people in Igbo land. Do you agree? Have you ever thought whether deviating from the popular practices could have been responsible for the prosperity of the Abiriba people? Abiriba, they call it small London. Have you been to Abiriba? If you go to Abiriba does not look any different from Victoria Garden City in Lagos. I'm telling you the gospel truth. It's beautiful. They call it London, and it actually looks like London. And that is the only matrilineal community I'm aware of. There may be others, but that one is the most popular one. And they are very prosperous. Think about it. Do you want to be prosperous? Think Abiriba. The second one, what we can do differently. The people that take these properties from women that don't have male children, maybe they are uncles. People we call uncles too, right? So if you are an uncle in the room, do differently. Education is making a difference, I agree. Education is helping families. Like we had the young man here. I've actually started hearing a lot of young men that have just 2 daughters, 3 daughters say, I want no more, I want no son. I'm okay, I'm content with my 2 girls. Increasingly, I'm seeing a lot of men say that. That's what education, the kind of difference education, making them feel content. And those men are not keeping quiet. They are also taking steps to ensure that whatever properties that they have are not shared among, their children are not kicked out, and people take those things. And lastly, I would like to mention, when we are thinking about reform, don't put yourself in that equation. You know why a lot of people are holding on to it, this culture or tradition, is because it benefits them personally. But when you look beyond the self, no matter how immortal you are, the highest you stay here is 100 years. Is that not so? No matter what, in 100 years, all of us are going to give way. So, why do we resist change when we know we have a short time to stay here? So, let us not think about how culture benefits me, but instead, how culture can help people unlock their human potential. And sir, in rounding up, why we're having this conversation is because in the concept of human productivity, it has become clear that our culture is not giving us an equal playing field. It's because that equal playing field is not there. That is why that conversation keeps coming back. Until we begin to see, why are we not having Yoruba customs being debated upon? These are the questions we should be asking ourselves. So, for our take home is, there are still some Igbo people, to be frank, for people that fought a war in 1967 to 1970, Igbo people have done amazingly well. If you go to many communities where they didn't fight any war, like sometimes when you go to places in Osun, Ekiti, when you go to, there are so rural, but there are no Igbo communities that are that rural. That is to tell you, Igbo people have done very well. Imagine if we are doing this good with all of these restrictions holding us down. Imagine if we remove them. Igbo land will be greater and better than it currently is. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ekene moyo abuna bianca to me tata. It's been a wonderful time. We've had very good quality conversations and we've touched issues that disturb us. We that know where it disturbs us. So thank you so much for attending. This is the month of June, and as usual, we'll have some programs. Our monthly programs at the Center for Memories. This is the first one. Ńkàtá Ụ becomes first because it happens on the first Friday of every month. So going forward in the month, this is the month of June, like I mentioned earlier, and it is the month I publish Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. Things Fall Apart is one of the best that has ever come out of Africa, and that book was published on June 17th. So we are going to be celebrating Things Fall Apart Day at the Center for Memories on 19th June, which is supposed to be our book club day. 18th June, which is supposed to be our book club day. So we invite you to please join us at the Center for Memories on June 18th at 12 noon for us to have that conversation as well. Please follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even LinkedIn. We are there at Center for Memories. We also have a children's book club and then our children's program, which holds on the last Saturday of the month. So thank you so much, Ms. Victoria. Thank you, Ebere. Thank you to all our contributors. And we'll see you again by this time next month. Please, let's come forward to our group photograph as usual. Thank you so much.
Anywhere I enter, they call me Onyigbo. Makana bụ Onyigbo.